I never believed in miracles until my dog saved my life. And the crazy thing is, she knew I was dying before I did, before any doctor, before any test, before I even felt sick. Her name was Bella, a golden retriever with soft amber eyes and a tail that never stopped wagging. I'd rescued her from a shelter 3 years earlier, but looking back now, I think she rescued me. I just didn't know it yet. I didn't know that this happy, goofy dog who loved tennis balls and belly rubs would become the reason I'm still alive today. It started with small things I didn't pay attention to at first. Bella began following me everywhere, and I mean everywhere. To the kitchen, to the bathroom, to the mailbox. She wouldn't let me out of her sight. At night, she'd press herself against my chest, right over my heart, and refuse to move. I'd try to shift her to the foot of the bed like she used to sleep, but she'd climb right back up and push her nose against my chest. I thought she was just being clingy. Maybe she was getting old and needed extra comfort. She was only 6, but some dogs get anxious as they age, right? That's what I told myself. That's what I told my husband, Mark, when he asked why Bella was acting so strange. "She's probably just going through a phase," I said, scratching behind her ears. "Dogs do that sometimes." But deep down, something felt off. Bella wasn't just being affectionate, she was obsessed. She'd paw at my chest over and over, whimpering softly like she was trying to tell me something. Sometimes she'd bark at that one spot, right above my left breast, and I'd gently push her away, thinking she was just being weird. I had no idea she was trying to save my life. I had no idea that in a few weeks, I'd be sitting in a doctor's office, hearing words that would change everything. I had no idea that my silly, loving dog had detected something that no machine had found yet, something that could have killed me if she hadn't been so persistent. This is the story of how my dog knew I had cancer before anyone else did, and how ignoring her almost cost me everything. Let me back up a little. Let me tell you about Bella and how she came into my life in the first place, because to understand why what happened next was so miraculous, you need to understand who she was and who I was before all of this. My name is Rachel. I'm 42 years old, and I live in a quiet suburb with my husband Mark and our 2 kids, Emma, who's 14, and Jake, who's 12. We're a normal family. We do normal things: soccer practice, family dinners, movie nights on Fridays. Nothing extraordinary, nothing special, just regular, everyday life. 3 years ago, I wasn't even a dog person. I'd never had a pet growing up. My parents didn't like the mess, the responsibility, the expense. So when Emma started begging for a dog, I was hesitant. I had enough on my plate with work, kids, house stuff. The last thing I needed was another responsibility. But Emma was persistent. She showed me pictures of dogs at the local shelter. She made PowerPoint presentations about responsibility. She promised she'd walk the dog every day and clean up after it. And eventually, I caved. Not because I wanted a dog, but because I wanted to make my daughter happy. That's how we ended up at the county animal shelter on a rainy Saturday afternoon. Emma ran from cage to cage, looking at every dog with wide, hopeful eyes. There were so many: big dogs, small dogs, loud dogs, quiet dogs. I felt overwhelmed. Then I saw her, Bella. She was sitting quietly in the corner of her cage, watching us with those soft amber eyes. She didn't bark or jump around like the other dogs. She just sat there, looking at me like she'd been waiting for me her whole life. "What about this one?" I said, kneeling down in front of her cage. The shelter volunteer, a young woman with kind eyes, came over and smiled. "That's Bella. She's a 3-year-old golden retriever. She was found as a stray about 6 months ago. She's the sweetest dog we have, but people keep passing her by for the younger puppies." Something about that broke my heart. This beautiful, gentle dog sitting in a cage, being overlooked, waiting for someone to choose her. I reached my hand through the bars, and Bella came forward slowly, pressing her nose against my palm. Her tail started wagging, just a little bit, like she was afraid to hope too much. "Can we meet her?" I asked. They brought Bella into a small visiting room, and she immediately came to me, not to Emma or Mark or the kids, to me. She sat at my feet and looked up at me with those eyes, and I felt something I'd never felt before, a connection, like this dog and I were meant to find each other. "We'll take her," I said, and Emma squealed with joy. That was 3 years ago, and Bella became part of our family in a way I never expected. She wasn't just Emma's dog, she was everyone's dog. She greeted Mark at the door every day when he came home from work. She sat with Jake while he did his homework. She slept at the foot of Emma's bed at night. She made our house feel more like a home. But her favorite person was me. I don't know why, maybe because I was the one who chose her, maybe because I was the one who fed her and walked her in the mornings, or maybe because dogs just know things. They know who needs them most. Bella and I had a routine. Every morning at 6, before anyone else in the house woke up, we'd go for a walk around the neighborhood. It was my quiet time, my thinking time. Bella would trot beside me, her tail wagging, and I'd feel peaceful. Those morning walks became the best part of my day. Life was good, simple, predictable. I had a job I liked as a part-time graphic designer. I had a family I loved. I had a dog who made me smile every single day. I was healthy, active. I ate well. I didn't smoke. I rarely drank. I did everything you're supposed to do to stay healthy. I had no reason to think anything was wrong, no reason to suspect that something deadly was growing inside me, no reason to believe that my time was running out. But Bella knew. Somehow she knew. It started in early September. I remember because Emma had just started her freshman year of high school and Jake had made the middle school soccer team. Life was busy, but good. Normal. Bella started acting different. At first, it was subtle. She'd follow me from room to room more than usual. When I sat on the couch, she'd jump up and press herself against me. When I went to bed, she'd climb up and lie directly on my chest, something she'd never done before. "Bella, come on, you're too heavy," I'd say, trying to move her. But she'd resist, pushing back against my hands, insisting on staying right there, right over my heart, right over the spot where, unknown to me, something was very wrong. I thought it was cute at first. Annoying, but cute. Dogs go through phases, I told myself. Maybe she was feeling insecure about something. Maybe the kids going back to school had disrupted her routine. But then it got worse. Bella started pawing at my chest, not gently, deliberately. She'd use her paw to push and press against my left breast, over and over, whimpering while she did it. Sometimes she'd bark at that spot, sharp little barks like she was trying to get my attention. "Bella, stop it," I'd say, pushing her away. "What's gotten into you?" Mark noticed too. One night we were watching TV and Bella climbed onto my lap, which she rarely did, and started pawing at my chest again. "What's she doing?" Mark asked, looking over. "I don't know. She's been doing this for days. It's driving me crazy." "Maybe you should take her to the vet. Maybe something's wrong with her." I considered it. Maybe Bella was sick. Maybe she was in pain and trying to tell me. But she seemed fine otherwise. She ate normally, she played, she went on walks. She just had this weird obsession with my chest. Then came the night that should have been my wake-up call. I was lying in bed, reading a book, and Bella was beside me. Suddenly, she sat up and started pawing at my chest frantically, whimpering and barking. She'd never been this aggressive about it before. "Bella, stop," I said firmly, pushing her off the bed. "Go lay down." She jumped right back up and did it again. Paw, 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 whimper, bark, over and over at the same exact spot. I was frustrated, annoyed. I grabbed her collar and guided her off the bed. I said, "No, Bella, go to your bed." She looked at me with those amber eyes, and I swear there was something like desperation in them, like she was begging me to understand. But I didn't understand. I just wanted to read my book in peace. Bella slunk to her dog bed in the corner of the room, but she didn't sleep. She sat there all night, watching me. I could feel her eyes on me in the dark. It should have told me something was wrong. It should have made me pay attention. But I didn't. I was too busy, too distracted, too convinced that Bella was just being a needy dog. The behavior continued for weeks. September turned into October, the weather got cooler, the leaves started falling, and Bella became more and more insistent. She wouldn't leave my side. She'd whimper whenever I left the room. She'd paw at my chest every chance she got. My family started noticing. Emma would come home from school and say, "Mom, why is Bella acting so weird?" Jake said Bella wouldn't play fetch with him anymore because she was too focused on following me around. Even Mark started getting concerned. "Rachel, this isn't normal. Something's going on with her. We need to take her to the vet." I know. I'll make an appointment." But I didn't. I kept putting it off. I was busy with work deadlines. Emma had a big school project I was helping with. Jake had soccer tournaments every weekend. I told myself I'll do it next week, and then next week, and then the week after that. Meanwhile, Bella was trying desperately to save my life, and I was ignoring her. One morning in late October, I was getting dressed and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I looked tired, more tired than usual. There were dark circles under my eyes, my skin looked pale. I'd been feeling run down for a few weeks, but I'd chalked it up to stress and lack of sleep. I lifted my arm to put on deodorant, and that's when I noticed it. A small dimple in my left breast, just a tiny indentation in the skin. I'd never seen it before. I pressed on it gently, and it didn't hurt. There was no lump that I could feel, just this weird little dimple. Probably nothing, I thought. Maybe I'd bumped into something and bruised it. Maybe it was just how my skin looked in this light. But something made me pause. Something made me press a little harder, searching. And then I felt it. Very faint, very small. A hardness. Not quite a lump, just a dense spot, deep under the surface. My heart started beating faster. No, it couldn't be. I was too young. I was healthy. I'd do self-exams. Well, I used to do self-exams. I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually done one properly. Life got busy. You forget. I stood there for a long moment, my hand pressed against my breast, feeling that small, hard spot, trying to convince myself it was nothing, just dense tissue, just normal. Then Bella appeared in the doorway of the bathroom. She walked over to me and sat down, looking up at me with those knowing eyes. Then she lifted her paw and gently, so gently, touched my leg, like she was saying, "I've been trying to tell you." And suddenly, everything clicked. All those weeks of Bella pawing at my chest, all those nights of her pressing against that exact spot, all her desperate whimpering and barking. She wasn't being needy. She wasn't going through a phase. She was trying to tell me something was wrong. She'd been trying to tell me for weeks, and I was being too stubborn, too busy, too distracted to listen. I made a doctor's appointment that same day. I called as soon as the office opened, and even though they were booked for weeks, when I explained that I'd found something in my breast, they squeezed me in for the next afternoon. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, my hand resting on that spot, feeling that small hardness, trying to convince myself it was nothing. But Bella knew better. She climbed onto the bed and lay down beside me, pressing her warm body against mine. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't push her away. I let her stay right there, her nose against my chest, keeping watch like she'd been doing all along. "I'm sorry I didn't listen to you," I whispered into her fur. She licked my hand like she forgave me. Mark asked what was wrong, why I was so quiet, but I didn't tell him yet. I didn't want to worry him until I knew something for sure. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew. The way Bella had been acting, the way she'd been so focused on that one spot. Dogs don't do that for no reason. The next day, I sat in Dr. Morrison's office, a woman I'd been seeing for annual checkups for years. She was kind and thorough, and she didn't dismiss my concerns. "Let me take a look," she said gently. She examined me carefully, her face neutral and professional. When she pressed on the spot I'd shown her, I watched her expression change slightly, just a flicker, but I saw it. "I'm gonna order a mammogram and ultrasound," she said calmly. "It's probably nothing, but we need to check. Better to be safe." Probably nothing. That's what everyone says, but her eyes said something different. The mammogram was scheduled for 3 days later. Those 3 days felt like 3 years. I went through the motions of normal life. I made dinner, I helped with homework, I smiled and pretended everything was fine, but inside, I was terrified. Bella never left my side during those 3 days. She followed me everywhere, her presence constant and comforting. At night, she'd rest her head on my chest, and I'd cry quietly into her fur, and she'd just lie there, solid and warm and steady, like she was saying, "I'm here, I've got you." The mammogram was uncomfortable and scary. They pressed my breast between 2 cold plates and took images from different angles. The technician's face was carefully blank as she looked at the screen. Then she said the words I was dreading. "The radiologist wants an ultrasound as well, just to get a clearer picture. You can wait here." My hands were shaking. When something shows up on a mammogram and they want more images, it's usually not good news. I knew that. Everyone knows that. The ultrasound was worse because I could see the screen. I could see the dark mass. I could see how the technician lingered on one particular area, measuring it, taking screenshot after screenshot. She didn't say anything, but she didn't have to. I could see it right there in black and white, something that shouldn't be there. "The radiologist will review these and send the results to your doctor," the technician said gently. "You should hear something within a few days." I drove home in a daze. My phone rang twice, but I didn't answer. I just drove, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my mind blank with fear. When I got home, Bella was waiting at the door like she always was. But this time, when I knelt down to pet her, I wrapped my arms around her neck and sobbed. She stood perfectly still, letting me hold her, her tail wagging slowly like she was trying to comfort me. "You knew," I whispered. "You tried to tell me." That night, I told Mark everything. He held me while I cried and told me it would be okay, that we'd face whatever this was together. But I could see the fear in his eyes, too. The call came 2 days later. Dr. Morrison's voice was gentle but serious. "Rachel, the imaging shows a mass that we're concerned about. I'm referring you to a breast surgeon for a biopsy. I've already called and they can see you tomorrow." Tomorrow. That's how serious it was. No waiting weeks for an appointment. Tomorrow. The biopsy was awful. They numbed the area and inserted a needle to take tissue samples. I had to lie perfectly still while they worked, and all I could think about was Bella at home, waiting for me. Bella, who had been trying to warn me. Bella, who had known something was wrong long before any machine detected it. Then came the hardest wait of my life, 3 to 5 days for biopsy results. I tried to stay busy. I tried to think positive, but every time my phone rang, my heart would stop. Bella never left my side during that wait. She slept with her body pressed against mine. She followed me from room to room. She'd rest her head on my lap while I sat staring at nothing, trying not to think about the word cancer. On the 4th day, Dr. Morrison called. I was in the kitchen making lunch. I saw her name on the caller ID, and my whole body went cold. "Rachel, I'm so sorry," she said, and those 3 words told me everything I needed to know. The biopsy results came back. It's cancer, invasive ductal carcinoma. The room spun. I gripped the counter to keep from falling. Cancer, the word I'd been dreading, the word that changes everything. She kept talking, explaining about staging and treatment options and referring me to an oncologist, but I could barely hear her over the roaring in my ears. I was 42 years old. I had 2 kids. I had a husband. I had a life. And now I had cancer. When I hung up, I slid down to the kitchen floor and sat there, stunned. Bella appeared immediately, as if she'd sensed my distress from wherever she'd been in the house. She walked over to me, climbed into my lap despite her size, and pressed her nose against my chest, right over the spot where the cancer was. And I finally understood. She'd been trying to tell me for months. She'd been trying to save my life. And if I'd listened to her sooner, if I'd paid attention when she first started acting strange, maybe we would have caught it earlier. "Thank you," I whispered, holding her tight. "Thank you for not giving up on me." The next few weeks were a blur of doctor's appointments and tests and scans. They needed to stage the cancer. They needed to see if it had spread. Every test felt like waiting for a verdict. Bella came with me to every appointment she was allowed to. I even asked my oncologist, Dr. Patel, if I could bring her, and she said yes. She'd heard stories of dogs detecting cancer before. "It's not uncommon," Dr. Patel said, reaching down to pet Bella. "Dogs have an incredible sense of smell. They can detect chemical changes in the body that we can't measure yet with our technology. Your dog might have saved your life by catching this early." Early. That word gave me hope. If it was early, I had a chance. The final staging came back as stage 2A. The tumor was about 2 centimeters. The lymph nodes under my arm showed early signs of involvement, but it hadn't spread beyond that. It was serious, but it was treatable. Treatment would be aggressive: a lumpectomy to remove the tumor and affected lymph nodes, then chemotherapy, then radiation, then 5 years of hormone therapy. It would be hard. It would be exhausting, but I would survive. My surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks later. I was terrified, but also strangely grateful. Grateful that Bella had been so persistent. Grateful that I'd finally paid attention. Grateful that we'd caught it when we did. The night before surgery, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with fear and what-ifs. Bella climbed up beside me, carefully avoiding my chest, and rested her head on my shoulder. Her warm breath on my neck was comforting, steady. "I couldn't have done this without you," I told her. "You saved me, girl. You really did." The surgery went well. They removed the tumor and 3 lymph nodes. Dr. Patel said she was confident they got it all, but we'd know more after I finished chemotherapy and they could assess how well the treatment worked. Recovery was hard. I was sore and exhausted. Simple things like lifting my arm or getting dressed hurt. But Bella was there every moment. She'd lie beside me on the couch, her presence a constant comfort. When I'd wake up from naps feeling disoriented and scared, she'd be right there, her amber eyes watching me with that calm, steady gaze. Chemotherapy started a month after surgery. I was dreading it, dreading the sickness, the hair loss, the fatigue. And it was as bad as I feared, worse even. There were days I couldn't get out of bed, days I was so sick I could barely keep water down, days I cried from exhaustion and despair. But Bella never left my side. On my worst days, when I was too weak to even pet her, she'd just lie there beside me, her body warm against mine, her breathing slow and peaceful. Somehow, having her there made it bearable. My hair started falling out after the 2nd round of chemo. I cried when I saw the clumps on my pillow. I cried when I looked in the mirror and saw myself becoming unrecognizable. Mark held me and told me I was beautiful, but I didn't feel beautiful. I felt sick and scared and angry. Bella didn't care that I was bald. She didn't care that I looked different, or that I couldn't walk her like I used to, or that sometimes I was too tired to even acknowledge her. She just loved me, unconditionally, the way dogs do. Emma and Jake struggled too. They were scared of losing me. I could see it in their eyes every time they looked at me, but they were also so brave. Emma would sit with me during my bad days, reading to me or just holding my hand. Jake would bring me drawings he'd made at school, pictures of our family, with Bella always prominently featured. Slowly, month by month, treatment progressed. 6 rounds of chemotherapy, then 6 weeks of daily radiation. My body was exhausted, but the cancer was responding. The tumors were shrinking. The treatment was working. Through it all, Bella was my constant, my anchor, my reminder that I had something to fight for. Every morning, even on my worst days, she'd come to my bedside and gently rest her paw on my arm. Time to get up, time to keep fighting, time to keep living. And I did. I kept fighting. I kept living because she'd given me a second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it.
That was 2 years ago. I finished treatment and went into remission. Every 3 months, I have scans to make sure the cancer hasn't come back. So far, every scan has been clear. I'm still here, still fighting, still grateful. Bella is 8 years old now. She's slowing down a bit, her muzzle gray, her steps a little stiffer, but she's still my girl, still my protector, still the reason I'm alive. I think about those weeks when she was trying to tell me something was wrong, and I feel guilty for not listening sooner. But I also know that guilt doesn't change anything. What matters is that she didn't give up on me. She kept trying, kept warning me, kept pawing at that spot until I finally paid attention. Dogs are incredible creatures. They love us in ways we don't always deserve. They protect us even when we don't realize we need protecting. Bella saved my life, not just by detecting my cancer early, but by being there through every moment of treatment, by reminding me every single day that I had something worth fighting for. I've learned so much from this experience. I've learned not to ignore the signs, whether they come from my body or from my dog. I've learned that time is precious and health is not guaranteed. I've learned that sometimes the smallest things, a dog's persistent pawing, a minor dimple in the skin, can be the difference between life and death. But most of all, I've learned about love. Real, unconditional, life-saving love. The kind of love that doesn't give up. The kind of love that keeps trying even when you're not listening. The kind of love that saves you in ways you never expected. Every morning, Bella and I still go for walks. They're slower now, shorter, but I cherish every single one. I look at her trotting beside me, her tail wagging, and I remember the gift she gave me, the gift of time, the gift of life. I rescued Bella from a shelter 3 years ago, but the truth is, she rescued me. She rescued me from ignorance, from denial, from a cancer that could have killed me if she hadn't been so persistent. So if your dog is acting strange, pay attention. If they're obsessed with a certain part of your body, get it checked. Don't ignore the signs. Don't wait like I did. Dogs know things we don't. They sense things we can't. And sometimes they're trying to save your life. I'm alive today because of a golden retriever who refused to give up on me. Because of a dog who loved me enough to keep trying, keep warning, keep pawing at that spot until I finally listened. Bella wouldn't leave my side, and now I know why. She was saving my life. She was giving me a second chance. She was loving me the way only dogs can love, completely and unconditionally, and with everything they have. Thank you, Bella, for never giving up, for seeing what I couldn't see, for loving me enough to keep trying. You saved my life, and I will spend the rest of my life being grateful for you every single day.